He told me I wasn't wife material, then proposed to my sister at our family barbecue in front of everyone. My name is Elena, I'm 29 years old. And my fiancé told me I wasn't wife material, then proposed to my sister at our family barbecue in front of everyone. Applause. Phones out. Cameras flashing. Her fake tears. I said nothing. Before I tell you how this ended, like this video, subscribe, and comment where you're watching from, because this story gets dark. Darker than you think. Let me paint you the picture of that Saturday afternoon in July. The barbecue was my idea. My idea. I'd spent 3 weeks planning it, coordinating with my mother about the menu, making sure we had enough seating for 37 family members. I bought the decorations, the extra tables, even the stupid citronella candles to keep the mosquitoes away. I wanted everything perfect because I thought, God, I was so naive. I thought Marcus might finally propose that day. We'd been together for 4 years. 4 years. Not 4 months, not 4 dates, 4 entire years of my life. I'd introduced him to every single person who mattered to me. He knew my grandmother's maiden name, my father's golf handicap, my mother's secret recipe for potato salad. He'd been to Christmas dinners, Easter brunches, birthday parties. He was family. But for the past 3 months, something had shifted. He'd become distant, dismissive. When I'd bring up our future, he'd change the subject. When I'd mention my friend Sarah's engagement ring, he'd suddenly need to check his phone. When I'd joke about us being next, his laugh would come out hollow forced. I should have known. The signs were there, burning bright red like emergency flares, but I was too blinded by 4 years of investment to see them clearly. Too desperate to believe that love could conquer whatever was making him pull away. So there I was, standing in my parents' backyard, watching my cousin flip burgers while my aunt complained about the heat. My sister Sophia arrived fashionably late, as always, in a white sundress that probably cost more than my monthly rent. She worked in marketing for some tech startup and loved reminding everyone about her corporate lifestyle. 26 years old and still acted like she was the center of the universe. Marcus had been quiet all afternoon. Not unusual lately, but something felt different. He kept checking his watch, kept glancing toward the house. When my dad started his annual speech about family and gratitude, Marcus excused himself to get another beer. That's when it happened. He came back out, but instead of returning to the picnic table where we'd been sitting, he walked straight to where Sophia was standing near the rose bushes, taking selfies for her Instagram story. The entire family was still gathered around my father, who was mid-sentence about the importance of cherishing the people we love. Marcus cleared his throat. Loud enough that conversations started to die down. Loud enough that heads began to turn. "Excuse me, everyone," he said, his voice carrying across the yard. "I have something important to say." My heart started pounding. This was it. This was the moment I'd been waiting for, planning for, dreaming about. After 4 years, he was finally going to. "Elena," he said, looking directly at me with this smile that I'd never seen before. Cold. Calculating. "You're a wonderful person. But let's be honest. You're just not wife material." The words hit me like a physical blow. I felt the air leave my lungs, felt my knees wobble. Around me, I could hear the sharp intake of breath from my family members, the confused murmurs, the uncomfortable shuffling of feet. But Marcus wasn't done. He turned to my sister, and I watched in slow-motion horror as he dropped to one knee. Right there, in front of my entire family, on the grass I'd helped my father mow that morning. "Sophia," he said, pulling out a ring box, "you are wife material. Will you marry me?" The silence that followed felt infinite. Like time had stopped. Like the universe had hit pause on reality itself. I could see my mother's face, frozen in shock. My father's mouth hanging open. My cousins with their phones already out, recording this moment that would destroy me. And then Sophia said yes. The applause that erupted felt like thunder in my ears. Suddenly, everyone was moving, rushing forward to congratulate them, to see the ring, to capture the moment. Camera flashes went off like fireworks. I could hear my aunt crying, actually crying with joy. "Oh, this is so romantic," she kept saying. "So unexpected. So perfect. Perfect." Right. My sister was crying too, but they weren't real tears. I knew Sophia's fake cry. We'd grown up together. This was the same performance she'd given when she didn't get the lead in our high school musical, when she needed Dad to increase her credit card limit, when she wanted sympathy for her latest drama. But everyone else was buying it. Everyone else was eating up her act. I can't believe this is happening, she squealed, letting Marcus slip the ring onto her finger. I'm so shocked. I never expected this. Liar. She was many things, but surprised wasn't one of them. The way she held her hand out for photos, the way she angled herself toward the cameras, the way she kept glancing at me to gauge my reaction. This wasn't spontaneous. This was calculated. People kept looking at me, waiting for my response. Waiting for me to explode, to scream, to make a scene that would give them something to gossip about for months. My cousin Jennifer actually had her phone pointed in my direction, probably live streaming to her TikTok followers. But I didn't give them what they wanted. I stood there, perfectly still, perfectly silent. I didn't congratulate them. I didn't storm off. I didn't cry or shout or beg for an explanation. I just watched. Like I was observing someone else's nightmare from a safe distance. That silence was the most dangerous thing I ever did. Because while everyone was focused on the happy couple, while they were passing around the ring and taking group photos and planning impromptu engagement parties, I was thinking. Really thinking for the first time in months. I was thinking about the credit card I'd found in Marcus's wallet 2 weeks ago with Sophia's name on it. The one he'd claimed was for business expenses when I'd asked about it. I was thinking about the way he'd been asking strange questions about my work schedule, about which family events I'd be attending. I was thinking about Sophia's sudden interest in my relationship, her probing questions about our problems, her offers to talk to Marcus if I needed her to. If you're enjoying this story so far, make sure to subscribe and let me know in the comments where you're watching from. Trust me, you won't want to miss what happens next. This hadn't been spontaneous at all. This had been planned. Orchestrated. They'd been talking behind my back, plotting this moment while I was busy being the perfect girlfriend, the loyal sister, the trusting fool who believed that 4 years meant something. The party continued around me like I wasn't even there. People were already making toasts, already talking about wedding plans. My mother was crying, real tears, not Sophia's manufactured ones, and hugging her future son-in-law. My father was shaking Marcus's hand, welcoming him to the family like he hadn't been part of it for years already. Nobody seemed to remember that just 5 minutes earlier, I'd been Marcus's girlfriend. That we'd arrived together, that my car was parked in the driveway next to his. That until that moment, everyone had assumed we'd be the ones getting engaged. I stayed for another hour. Not because I wanted to, but because leaving would have given them exactly what they wanted. Drama scenes, evidence that I was bitter and unhinged. Instead, I helped clear plates. I refilled drinks. I smiled politely when people offered awkward condolences disguised as congratulations. You must be so happy for them, my great-aunt Martha said, patting my arm with genuine concern. Of course, I replied. Love finds a way. The words tasted like poison in my mouth. When I finally left, nobody tried to stop me. Marcus was too busy showing off his new fiancé to his former girlfriend's relatives. Sophia was too busy planning her social media announcements to notice me grabbing my purse and walking to my car. I drove home in complete silence. No music, no podcasts, no phone calls to friends for support. Just me, the road, and the growing realization that my entire relationship had been a lie. That night, I didn't cry. I didn't call my friends. I didn't post angry messages on social media or send confrontational texts. Instead, I did something that I'd never done in my entire life. I planned revenge. Real revenge. Not the messy, emotional kind that backfires and makes you look crazy. The kind that's surgical, precise, and completely devastating. I started with research. 4 years of dating someone gives you access to a lot of information, and Marcus had always been careless with his passwords. His laptop, his email, his banking information, he'd given me access to all of it over the years, back when trust actually meant something. What I found was even worse than I'd imagined. Credit card debt. Massive credit card debt that he'd been hiding from me for over a year. Online gambling, luxury purchases he couldn't afford, cash advances to pay for dinners and gifts that I'd thought came from his generosity. He was broke. Not just low on funds, completely, utterly broke. But Sophia wasn't. My sister had recently received a promotion and a hefty bonus. She'd been posting about her new salary on LinkedIn, bragging about her financial success to anyone who would listen. She had a trust fund from our grandfather, a healthy savings account, and a credit score that could finance a small country. Marcus hadn't chosen Sophia because he loved her more. He'd chosen her because she was his financial lifeline. The ring he'd proposed with was beautiful. I'll give him that. Classic solitaire, white gold band. Looked like it cost a fortune. The kind of ring I'd pinned to secret Pinterest boards, the kind I'd dreamed about wearing someday. But I knew Marcus's financial situation now. I knew exactly how much he could afford, and it wasn't much. So the next morning, while Sophia was probably still floating on cloud nine and planning her engagement announcement posts, I made a phone call. "Hi, I'm calling about a ring purchase made yesterday afternoon. My name is Elena Morrison, and I believe my boyfriend may have bought a ring from your store." The jeweler was happy to help. Apparently, Marcus had been a memorable customer, nervous, sweaty, asking lots of questions about payment plans and return policies. He'd spent exactly $37 on a cubic zirconia ring from their costume jewelry section. $37. For comparison, my engagement ring, the one I'd never received, would have cost at least $3,000. The ring Sophia was probably showing off to all her coworkers at that very moment wasn't worth enough to buy lunch at a decent restaurant. But I wasn't done with my research. I called 3 more jewelry stores in the area, pretending to be insurance companies needing to verify purchases. Same story everywhere. Marcus had been shopping for the cheapest engagement ring possible, something that would look real in photos but cost almost nothing. Then I found the emails. Marcus and Sophia had been corresponding for weeks. Not love letters, business correspondence. They'd negotiated this arrangement like a corporate merger. She would pay off his debts in exchange for marriage and the social status of being the chosen sister. He would get financial security and a clean credit report. They'd both get the satisfaction of humiliating me in the most public way possible. The emails were cold, calculated, completely void of actual emotion. They'd planned every detail of the proposal, from the timing to the location to my expected reaction. They'd even discussed how to handle my inevitable meltdown and what to do if I made a scene. But they'd underestimated me completely. Because while they were planning my humiliation, I was planning something much worse. I spent the next 3 days preparing. I printed emails, gathered financial records, documented every lie Marcus had told me about his money situation. I created a comprehensive file of evidence that painted a very clear picture of who my ex-boyfriend really was. Then I wrote a letter. Not a long, emotional rant about betrayal and heartbreak. Just a simple factual note that explained exactly what kind of man Sophia was planning to marry. Here's what I want you to remember about revenge. It's not about anger. Anger is messy, uncontrolled, easy to dismiss as jealousy or mental instability. Real revenge is about cold, hard facts delivered at exactly the right moment for maximum impact. 3 days after the proposal, I delivered my letter. I didn't confront them directly. I didn't cause a scene at their workplace or show up at Sophia's apartment demanding answers. Instead, I mailed the letter to Sophia's office, along with copies of all the evidence I'd gathered. The letter was simple. "Sophia, congratulations on your engagement. I thought you should know who you're marrying." Enclosed, you'll find financial records showing Marcus's true debt situation, email correspondence between the two of you planning my humiliation, and a receipt for your engagement ring, a $37 cubic zirconia purchased from the clearance section at Miller's Jewelry. If I wasn't wife material, neither was honesty. Best wishes for your future, Elena. I was worth so much more than that. The Greek sun was setting behind me as I raised my glass one final time. Not to Marcus and Sophia, not to their failed engagement or their ruined reputations. I was toasting myself. My courage, my silence, my perfectly executed revenge. But most of all, I was toasting my freedom. They kept the applause from that day. The photos, the excitement, the congratulations from people who didn't know better. I kept my dignity, my self-respect. My understanding that some silences speak louder than any words ever could. 6 months later, I heard through family gossip that Marcus had moved back in with his parents, still drowning in debt, still looking for someone to rescue him financially. Sophia had thrown herself into work, trying to rebuild her professional reputation and pretending the whole thing had never happened. Me? I'd started dating again. Slowly, carefully, with clear boundaries and zero tolerance for deception. I'd learned to trust my instincts, to value my own opinion over anyone else's validation. And I'd learned something else. The best revenge isn't always about destroying your enemies. Sometimes, the best revenge is building a life so good, so authentic, so genuinely happy, that their opinions become completely irrelevant. That barbecue was supposed to be my destruction. Instead, it became my liberation. So here's what I want you to remember. When someone shows you who they really are, believe them the first time. When someone tells you you're not worth their respect, don't fight to change their mind. When someone tries to humiliate you publicly, sometimes the most powerful response is simply silence. Because silence gives you space to think, to plan, to choose your response instead of reacting from emotion. Silence protects your dignity while your enemies destroy their own. Silence is the pause before perfect revenge. Marcus thought he was teaching me a lesson about my worth that day. Instead, he taught me something much more valuable, that I never needed his approval in the first place. If you believe silence is the most dangerous revenge, hit that like button. Subscribe for more real-life stories like this one. And comment below where you're watching from. I'm reading every single response and I love connecting with all of you. Remember, you are not defined by other people's inability to see your value. You are not diminished by their betrayal. You are not broken by their rejection. You are exactly as worthy as you've always been. The only difference is now you know it too. Trust me on this one. Sometimes the most devastating thing you can do to someone who's trying to hurt you is to simply thrive without them. They kept the applause. I kept my freedom. And honestly, I got the better deal.